You've said no stats. You've given fucking opinions
like
the whole time.
California.
When I use numbers and data and stats, I'm lazy. Oh my God. If this is what it means to use numbers, I think nobody should be allowed to use numbers. Because I think eugenicists had a very strong argument if that's the case. Let's watch one of the dumbest people in the world give his take or try to debate the Palestine and Israel conflict.
I actually think you're a smart guy. I actually think you know your stuff. You're just so fixated that Israel's the problem. The problem in the Middle East, like I said, follow the money. The countries that are succeeding, the Qataris, even the Saudis these days, they're coming into the modern world. They're leaving the 6th century mentality behind and say, let's get into the 21st century, where they need to succeed. In whether it's Gaza or whether it's Lebanon or whether it's Syria and whether Afghanistan, they need to focus on GDP, not GDT. Gross domestic product, not gross domestic terrorism.
Oh my God. Yo, this guy is easily one of the dumbest people I've ever seen in my life. Gross domestic T-word. He's saying these are actual things people are focusing on in the Middle East. Name one country in the world that its primary focus is terrorizing its own citizens, let alone the Middle East. We all know, and he's about to name some of these countries, we all know the reason why these conflicts exist in these places. This guy said, get these countries to focus on gross domestic product over basically terrorism. What kind of stupid take is this?
And the problem is they're obsessed. Put the guns down. Put the Quran down. Actually start living by the words that the Quran says, not some false equivalent of what they think is actually going on there.
Put the Quran down, but at the same time live by what the Quran says. How am I going to live by what the Quran says if I don't grab the Quran and read what it says? This guy is stupid. He's actually dumb. He said get these countries to basically secularize. He's pushing for secularism. He's saying these countries need to focus on religion, 6th century mentality, less, and focus more on GDP, right? And step one, he lays it out, goes put the Quran down, and then he knows that that's gonna cause some backlash. He goes, well, live by what the Quran says. Which one is it? Do I put it down or do I live by what it says?
Actually going on there. You talk about the genocide in Israel or in Gaza as if it's just a matter of fact. Well, let me show some stats for you, because after you see these stats, Israel's the worst genociders ever. The numbers, according to the world data, if you trust data, between 1990 and 2022, the Palestinian population overall went from 2 million to 5 million, okay? Pretty bad at genocide if that's what's happening right there. In Gaza, it went from 645,000 to 2.1 million. It's 3x. That ain't genocide to me.
He goes between 1990 and 2022. The term genocide didn't start getting used until the recent conflict from October, right? Between October and basically December is when they killed, the numbers vary, but sometimes some say 20, but it's over 10,000 people, right? Over 15,000 people, sorry, have died. And he's saying, well, if genocide is what's really happening, let's stretch this out across 1990 all the way to 2022, forgetting about all the conflicts that have occurred between that time, right? And saying that, well, let's just look at the population increase in that place, and then we're gonna test out if there's a genocide happening. The equivalent of this take is literally the equivalent of somebody looking at the American population growth, right? And then somebody on one side arguing, well, the American population isn't really increasing. And another person goes, well, you gotta, 1 second, let's look at the data over the past couple of months. And they just grab data from, let's just say this year, 2023, or end of 2022, end of 2023 to beginning of 2024. And then we're gonna compare. And we all know about the immigration crisis that's currently happening in the border. What we have in some states, they have tens of thousands of people coming in daily, right? And say, we'll see there is no population decline in America. Well, what are you talking about? Statistically, birth rate wise, there is a decline in the USA. The thing that's keeping the US population at bay is the fact that they're letting in a lot of immigrants. There's an immigration quota that the country has where they let in X number of people, which they always end up exceeding every single year. So the way he's like, well, if you trust data, I'm going to give you numbers if you trust data. But then he proceeds to give the most like dumb analysis of the numbers. And he goes, well, it's a bad genocide if you ask me, if the population increased from X to Y. And he doesn't even analyze, okay, why did the population increase? Are these the people that are these numbers of people that actually live in these places and they just purely reproduction, or is something else is going on? No analysis of the numbers. That's like it's literally like somebody looking at crimes in poor neighborhoods and goes, well, that race is more prone to terrorism, or more prone to crime, or they're dumber or something like that. Instead of analyzing the root causes of these things, he's just grabbing. If you trust data, this is so stupid.
Now, do 20,000 people, 30,000 people needlessly killed during this bullshit war that was started by Hamas? Is that horrible? 1,000,000%. And any Jew or any Israeli,
give me that number again. 600,000 to what?
645,000 to 2.1 million.
From what to from when to where?
This is in 1990 to 2022.
Do you know why they increased?
Because they're having babies like crazy.
No. You see, this is how like when you watch data while being uninformed makes you look very stupid.
Tell me why. Tell me how the population has gone from 2 million to 5 million.
Yeah, because most of the 1.5 extra million didn't come from Gaza. They were pushed away from other parts of Israel. So most of these people, they have increased because of refugees being kicked out.
If you're talking about the settlers, those are tens of thousands. Stop
I'm talking
it.
about
those
Gaza.
Aren't millions of people.
Dude, listen. My wife's family is not from Gaza, and yet they found themselves in Gaza because they were sitting in other cities and villages outside Gaza. This is the systemic pushing of people from other parts of Israel.
This is what it's called, to take a stat and analyze it. Nobody just looks at a number and draws conclusion from the number. Any middle schooler who's been taught how to look at numbers, even a pie chart or anything of that sort, everybody knows when you look at numbers, you grab the numbers, you look at it and you say, okay, we see a trend in this fashion. Why? You don't just assume, because that's not analysis. That's just looking at numbers and just making assumptions, and we all know where that's going to lead us. What Bassem just did is say, okay, he didn't reject the numbers. Okay? He did not reject it. He said, okay, no problem. We see these numbers, there's a population increase. Why is that? Let's understand why that is, and then proceeds to give him an actual reasoning behind why that population increased. And then this guy tries to obfuscate, and instead of just acknowledging, oh, whoopsie, my bad, I did not look at the numbers and the reasons behind how these numbers increased. And he's gonna try to argue this, and instead of just admitting the fact that he just looks stupid.
It's not millions of people. This is why I said that you're intellectually dishonest or intellectually lazy.
No.
Oh my God, the hypocrisy. Oh, I've never seen somebody who lacks self-awareness to this extent. Calling somebody intellectually lazy when you're the one who threw a number and then drew a conclusion out of it. Telling that to someone who literally told you, hey, the reason behind why those numbers look the way that they look is because of X, Y, and Z. That person is intellectually lazy, but not you who just grabbed the number from Google and said, you know what? These guys are lying because clearly the population is increasing. That is what?
I'm familiar with the settler stuff and the disengagement in 2006.
You don't know what you're talking about. These are people that
millions of people.
What?
Okay.
The people who belong to Gaza are 700,000 people. Right now, Gaza is 2.2 million. That is not birth rate, my friend. These are people pushed from, and by the way, that's not the first time. 1948, at the night of the declaration of the State of Israel, 1.5 million Palestinians were moved overnight. So it's not the first thing. So before you giving me numbers you want to appear smart, know what are behind the numbers, because these are not people giving babies.
Okay.
These are people being pushed from other places in order to be part of the open air prison that it is.
Okay, so then
it's not deliberate.
If you want to fact check me, let me fact check you. Anytime that there's numbers increasing, Bassem, going from 650, 450, whatever you want to call it, to 2 million, however it happens, that's the exact opposite of a genocide.
This gotta be, this is this guy said a lot of stupid stuff throughout this whole interview. This gotta be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. Listen to this. He said anytime, and he's laying out a rule here, okay? Anytime you have a population increase for any reason, okay? We can play back. For any reason, you have the opposite of a genocide. This is stupid on so many levels. One second. So let's just say a country the size of America, okay, with population of all types increased, with population of all kinds spread around the entire country. Let's just say a group came today, let's say the US government, on one day just woke up crazy and they said, we're going to eradicate all Asians, okay? And they went to California and they were on a mission to eradicate them. And then all the Asians that, let's just say 90% of the Asians that used to live in California were wiped out. The 5% that left migrated to the neighboring state. Let's just say they went to Texas or Arizona, whatever. And then somebody comes up to you, based on the rule that Mr. Adam here laid out, anytime that you have a population increase for any reason, you have the opposite of a genocide. And I say that because the population of Arizona or Texas, the population of Asians in Arizona or Texas increased by this amount of number. Therefore, we don't have a genocide. Mind you, we're forgetting about the 95% of the Asians that used to live in California that have been wiped out, and why the ones that live currently in Texas or Arizona live there. Do you understand how stupid this is? This is like he's accusing people of being intellectually lazy, and the problem is like he's not even being intellectual. He's just being straight up stupid. That there's no intellectuality here. There's nothing here. It's just pure idiocy.
So the whole genocide, the whole open air prison are talking points. Are talking points of BS.
No,
and this is why I said you're either intellectually lazy or you just hate Israel.
Okay. You see, you either intellectually lazy or you hate Israel. There can be no other conclusion that can be drawn when looking at numbers. Either it's one extreme or the other. I'm gonna look at the problem in a specific neighborhood. Either the people that live there are just genetically prone to violence, or you just hate white people or Asians or black people or whatever the opposing side of the argument would be. There could never be any objective analysis of numbers. This is so dumb.
This whole thing about you hate Israel and hate Islam, this is a very lazy way to talk to people.
It's kind of like your thing.
What did I tell you that is so lazy? What did I tell you, like you're fucking racist?
Because you've already said that multiple times.
No, I didn't say.
Yeah, you said that multiple times.
I said your undertone is racist. That's not
so not me, but what's going on inside of me.
And it's not what's going on inside of you. You see, I think that actually I thought there would be a language barrier with Bassem, since the man is literally debating people who were like born in America, that he would have a language barrier. Adam sees to not only have a language barrier, he has a mental barrier. This guy doesn't even know like what it means to make a distinction between what an undertone is and what an individual is. It's not what's going on inside of you. It's the undertone. It's the layer below what you're saying. If I say, so and so is slow, right? The undertone behind it is that I'm insulting this person. That's called an undertone. How does he not know this? And he's acting like he's dumb. I think this guy's actually stupid. So
going on inside of me.
The way that you analyze numbers is very lazy, because again,
really, when I actually use stats and data from the most credible sources,
these are numbers that were outside of Gaza.
You've said no stats. You've given fucking opinions the whole time.
When I use numbers and data and stats, I'm lazy. Oh my God. If this is what it means to use numbers, I think nobody should be allowed to use numbers, because I think eugenicists had a very strong argument if that's the case. I think every racist individual there is currently can justify their positions based on this guy's takes. And yeah, apparently that's how numbers are used. We just Google numbers, where the highest, who are the people who are committing the most crimes, or the people who are the smartest, or the people who are the wealthiest. Okay, and then just draw conclusions from there. And we're gonna just have a racial ranking in the country based on the numbers that we just see. No analysis, nothing needed. Because remember, Mr. Adam here told us that that's how numbers work. That's how we use data, all right?
Said no stats. You give a fucking opinion the whole time.
It's like saying that California has increased triple, or people in Texas increased because of birth rate. No, they increased because people from California started moving voluntarily. You have pushed 1.5 million people outside of Gaza, inside of Gaza in a matter of 12 years, and that's why the number has inflated. Mm-hmm. It's not because they were giving birth rate.
So then where's the genocide?
They were evacuated.
Where's this alleged genocide happening?
That's happening right now under your eyes.
So as of 3 months ago, there was no genocide. So it's just a new.
Well, we didn't actually use the word genocide before 3 months ago.
Okay,
that is true. The word itself was not used prior to the October situation. That's why the fact that he's just coming in here and saying, there is no genocide, and he's denying this whole thing is extremely lazy, because, or very hypocritical actually. It's not lazy, it's just hypocritical, because the fact that 20,000+ people are dead and unknown number of people are currently under the rebels, majority being women and children, that is not a genocide. Because remember, Buddy Adam here told us, let's look at the population increase between 1990 and 2022. That's how we determine if there's a genocide, not when the word actually was used for a very specific conflict or a very specific situation. That's not when we use the word, okay?
As of 3 months ago, there was no genocide. So it's just a new
Well,
thing.
we didn't actually use the word genocide before 3 months ago.
Okay, but you've
We
been
didn't
calling
use
for
it.
the river for the
We
sea
didn't use it.
for decades.
Well, also Israel have a lot of maps that is putting in the greater Israel from the Nile and the Euphrates. That's genocide for 5 countries there. And this is not by people in the street or people on YouTube. These are ministers. These are officials in the official government of Netanyahu. If you have someone, an Arab president, like the Egyptian president or the Jordanian king, tell you from the river and the sea, it's like, oh, it's the Arab authorities. You are basically complaining people on Facebook and the official viewpoint of the Israeli government. You're basically comparing apples to oranges. It doesn't make any sense. You're basically comparing activists with people with power, with money, and with weapons. So I don't know how come you're comparing
So
them.
what's your solution?
Exactly. The point here is that when a government, right, that's already being accused of not genocide, but also a bunch of other stuff, then, and that government has like an actual vision that is very public about, right? They're very like forefront about this, that they believe in a greater image of the country and a greater nation encompassing like multiple countries that are surrounding them. And you have military officials, government officials talking like this. And in contrast, you have protesters in Seattle, Washington, and DC saying from the river to the sea. I don't understand how the two are comparable. I don't. Could you imagine if people are losing their shit over, civilians, using these terminologies? Could you imagine how they would have reacted if they had actual presidents and world leaders in the Middle East talking the exact same way that these guys are talking? Could you imagine like an Arab currently talking the way this guy is talking, Adam is talking? Saying stuff like, like Jews need to focus less on, I don't know, I can't think of a terminology right now, but like just some random, like we just said, GDP and GDT, right? Imagine if they focus less on that and focus more on this. Like, the people would lose their mind, and anti-Semitism would just be thrown around left and right more than it already is.
So what's your solution? Because you got all these answers and we have no solutions. What's your solution?
Justice. Stop killing people and give them back their land.
Simple. That is the end of the story. It's extremely simple. The problem is not really that complicated. If we're being honest about it, people are being eradicated. Another group is doing it, and they're very proud about it. And you have idiots like this guy who are resisting this whole thing. Here's the thing that confuses me, to be honest, is if BPD himself, Patrick Bet-David, is the one sitting here. He's the silent dude. There's the other guy there too, but I don't really care about him. Patrick is sitting there, and I think I've read the comments of this video, and most people are wondering, like, why is Patrick allowing Adam to be on his show? What's the point? I don't understand. And my thing is this: Adam is beyond stupid, and every person in the comment section knows this. Patrick himself knows this, but do you know why they keep him? Because people like us who are commenting on this whole thing, people like me who are reacting to this whole thing, that leads to views. Patrick, I think, is purely using this guy, because we've all seen Patrick engage in videos, engage with guests that he disagrees with, and he is nowhere near this like ignorant when he's talking to people. But this guy is just a tool. I think he's honestly just a tool, maybe a diversity hire, to be honest. And he's just sitting there like, talking about, this whole conflict and this whole situation as if it's like, really just a black and white, throwing around numbers like, population increased by X million number between, 1990 and 2022. No analysis, no search up. You know who was coming. You have viewpoints. And to be honest, I don't even mind him being a Zionist. No problem, be a Zionist, but at least represent the position of Zionists more accurately than this. I feel like even if I was trying to represent the argument, I would do a better job presenting the argument than this guy. Like sitting here and arguing these points in this fashion is beyond me, bro. It's beyond me. But yeah, I don't understand what Patrick is doing. Well, I do understand what Patrick is doing. He's doing this whole thing purely for views and money, and people are gonna consume his content. So it is what it is, man. And like and subscribe and comment down below.